Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, FE Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Chris Wouters, screen update, Mia in the Shire, I think somebody's changed their name, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Jason Hornsby, JMails24, Unimento, Iron26, Endless, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links to Patreon, as I say, are below this video. And with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hey Nathan, sorry for causing you that trouble there. The reason I had to change my Discord name is because recently I wanted to contact somebody on Patreon for a certain application I wanted to download that they had on their Patreon. But with the name that I had, Sea Level Cultist, I thought, well, if they think I'm a flat earther, I might not get the information I want.
Oh, right. Is that you? I thought I'd done something wrong when I was reading them out. I'm like, is this an old, non-updated version? Because I can't, I can't tell while I'm reading it out. So I just clicked refresh and nothing changed. I'm like, oh, right, okay. So it's just somebody who's changed their name. You.
Yeah, I thought, well, if I have an obvious flat earth term, I might not get the information I want. People can be with this topic, so
fair enough.
Temporarily change it. Sorry to cause you that trouble.
No, there's no trouble. I'm really grateful for your patronage. I'm in an absolutely foul mood today. Everything seems to be against me. My iPad, my computer, you name it, it all seems to be broken or doing something to piss me off royally. So, for instance, OBS.
Well, we're here for you.
Thanks. OBS, I load it, use it, recorded a couple of videos about microphones, which, again, I'm sick of doing. I want to be publishing my book. But instead, I'm still doing bloody microphones, waiting to get my copy of my book from QE, who hasn't sent it to me yet, which is also pissing me off. Now, maybe it's unjustified that I'm annoyed at him, but I am. The computer itself loads OBS on my second monitor, which is switched off. And typically, they've recently, in the last year or so, updated Windows so that you can hover over an icon, right-click, and then click Move, and it will actually put the move bar, the little, four-directional arrow, over the top of the window you do want to move from the monitor that's not on, and then you can drag it across, which previously it didn't do. It put it in a position where you couldn't just click and drag it, and I always ended up having to turn the other monitor on. Very annoying. In this instance, it won't let me do it because each and every time OBS now loads since its most recent update, it gives me a warning that some vertical plugin that I've no idea what it's babbling about doesn't want to work. I'm like, okay, so I've watched 2 videos that tell me how to find the file for the plugin that's erroneous to delete it, and neither of the 2 videos, in my instance, took me to the place where the plugin folder is. So, spending 20 minutes tearing your hair out, getting more and more angry with it, going, why isn't it where I think it'll be? So that's the computer driving me absolutely up the wall just before starting the show, putting me in a foul mood. And my iPad is also now playing up. So I don't know if it's because I've just whacked it one too many times, but as I'm typing things, the keyboard will disappear and then it'll wipe what I type completely. So I'll type a whole paragraph. It'll take me a minute or two to type out what I've typed. And then the keyboard will disappear and so will the message or whatever it is I'm doing. Just vanish. So that's the iPad. And then to top it all off, YouTube are now removing my comments. So I'll type a comment to a response to a video. So a commenter will leave a comment under one of my videos and it doesn't show in Studio. So I have to go through all sorts of different hoops in Studio to see if I can find the most recent comments. Now, previously, just defaulted to any new comments would show, and I could just scroll through all new comments and respond to them, remove them if necessary, report them if necessary. Quite often the case when people are telling me to jump off buildings and such. But, you know, I can at least find the comments. Now, it doesn't seem to matter how I click on them. I can go into the video after going into Studio and there'll be dozens of comments that aren't being shown to me. So I'll respond to them and then my response will get removed. And you're like, what the hell? So I'm just getting generally messed around in YouTube, messed around by my iPad, messed around by my computer, and seemingly messed around by the people nearest and dearest to me. So I'm not in a great mood. To top all that off, I'm incredibly unwell. So I'm in and out of hospital constantly, with doctors trying to figure out what the bloody hell's wrong with me. I'm in an absolute shit ton of pain, covered in rashes. So yeah, I'm pretty miserable. Still need to keep the lights on, hence me doing a show.
But Earth's measured flat, so you'd have to worry about that.
The only thing that doesn't stress me is the argument itself, because, yeah, my responses to people when they're like, well, if I travel north on a circle of equal altitude, I'll take an angle that's from the edge of the curved circle. My response, north, south, east and west are flat Earth directions. The elevation angle to form the circle of equal altitude is measured off a flat plane. It's a circle of equal altitude. That means equal elevation at all points on the circle, on the surface of Earth. Earth is measured flat in 3 different ways before you've started claiming you've got a gotcha. I'll put that in, type it. Takes 30 seconds to type. Click send, and it will disappear. Yeah. Generally being messed around on all fronts. It's not like I can't overcome the arguments for a flat Earth. Earth's measured flat. It's really easy to overcome the arguments. So YouTube, it seems, have decided, oh, well, we'll just get rid of your responses. So all that's left is the scumbag saying things like, Nathan abuses his kids, which I get a lot of, and I don't get to see them anymore, which is deeply upsetting when you go into a video after daily I go into my YouTube studio to check the comments. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. And now I go back into the video that I've done, my job, going through the comments, putting my due diligence in, making sure there's no abusive comments in my videos. And when I go to the video itself on my YouTube page via a browser, there's all these comments that haven't shown up for me. Now, it's not like I'm not clicking around on the top tabs going most recent or top comment or whatever it is that I have to click to try and find them. They just don't appear. And they're all the same types of comments. Comments that claim I'm an abusive father. Comments that claim that I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about in the video when it's an easy rebuttal, like they're using 3 flat Earth prerequisites in their comment. And I just don't get to see them unless I spend more time than I've already got. I'm already up against it with a massive limitation of time, going not only into YouTube Studio, which is what it's designed for, responding to comments. I've got to go into the actual video on a browser to find all the scumbags that are lying about the situation. It just pisses me off.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good to have you. Did see someone else dip into the Discord server. I did specifically tell my participating Discord and G Plus that I may not have shows this week because I've been in and out of hospital, which I have. But regardless, I still need to keep the lights on, so hence I'm going to have a couple of live shows if I can stomach the pain that I'm currently experiencing. And given the amount of painkillers I'm on, hopefully I can manage at least an hour today. So, yeah, if I seem a little bit incoherent, it's probably because of all the tablets I've taken. But they've definitely kicked in, so I can probably cope for at least an hour of chat and discussion about the flat Earth and the nature of reality that we all experience. Go ahead, Vaxie.
Oh, no, I hit the phone with my finger. I'm driving. I'll be home in a second. My bad.
No, right, no worries. Yeah, as I was explaining in the pre-show, everything at the moment seems to be against me. I'm sure it's just my general temperament and disposition towards the people around me who are seemingly ghosting me and ignoring me when I'm asking for specific things. Now, I don't necessarily want to share that with the public at this stage, because it might just be that the person gets back in touch and says, oh no, I just hadn't seen your message, which is often the case. But when you're feeling really under the weather, everything seems to be against you, and therefore anybody who's not doing exactly what you ask them immediately seems to be dead against you, or at least that's the perception that I've got. Along with my iPad, which is pretty old now, starting to play up, which is irritating to the absolute extreme when it's doing it every 10, 15 minutes when you're typing stuff out on it, and I use the thing all day. Same goes for the computer. Set it for today's show nice and early, 20 past the hour, and by 10 to the hour I've only just started doing the intro for the pre-show because the computer just won't play ball. I've had to load my second monitor up just to get the OBS screen to come on, and then when it does, it's telling me that there's a piece of software, a plugin that's not working correctly, and that throws up an error message, and you're like trying to dig out the file in File Explorer via the videos that I've watched to try and rectify the problem, none of which is taking me to the actual file for the plugin that's not working. So just generally speaking, everything's starting to irritate me greatly. On top of a crap ton of pain, on top of constantly going in and out of hospital. Yeah, so things aren't great. Not the most fun times, I've got to be honest. Also, generally speaking, YouTube are giving me the runaround and messing me around with comments by removing them when I reply to people and not showing me the comments in the first place, meaning I've got to go into videos in the actual browser on the video itself to find half a dozen or a dozen comments that haven't shown up in my YouTube studio, regardless of how I click around to find them, and they just don't appear. So then you go into the actual video and see abusive comments, harassing comments that haven't been addressed. So you delete them in the video itself and then find that they haven't been deleted. You're like, what is going on? You're like, oh, right, it's because we are so over the target when we talk about how you, me, and anybody who ever measures Earth measure it flat. There aren't any exceptions. It doesn't matter if you're Dave McKeegan, who measured Earth flat for a 24-hour period in Antarctica, but for the fact that he was outsmarted by his own tripod, he would have measured Earth flat for a 24-hour period using elevation angles to the sun, or Simon Dan measuring elevation angles to the sun with 1,000 plus participants all using surface level of Earth for the elevation angles, 1,000 of them. So it doesn't matter who you are or your belief in a globe. You will, I will, we will, and it can only be, that's Earth, measured flat in all instances. So what's that mean for me? It means I get the mess around. I get generally jerked around by my commenters and YouTube, and I'm going to blame that on my computer and say that it's also connected to why I'm getting the runaround and messed around with File Explorer. It's not, but that's how it feels. Anyway, Earth being measured flat is generally the reason why I believe the censorship is so horrendous. And then when I joined today's show, I was told by Sensual Goat that a videographer had produced a video suggesting that the statistics for flat Earth videos have plummeted. And this particular videographer saying, oh, well, that's because nobody's interested. And Sensual Goat pointed out, well, no, obviously it's the case that Simon Dan's still getting plenty of views on flat Earth videos. Dave McKeegan's getting plenty of views on flat Earth videos where they detract from us. They can specifically put me in their title and thumbnail and tags and get hundreds of thousands of views. Do we get any? No. Obviously, if you're a globe believer, you're going to somehow take it as read that the massive censorship that we're currently experiencing is because nobody's interested in the subject. Oh, but simultaneously they are interested in Dan and Dave and Professor, not a Professor Dave, and all the rest of the anti-flat earthers who have all of the views funneled towards them. No, it's just YouTube are basically complete scumbags, and they are censoring me heavily, more heavily than ever, because we're talking about how me, you, and anybody who ever measures Earth measure it flat. And there aren't any exceptions. So the only thing that's not stressful is the argument that there isn't anymore. There is no debate about this subject. Earth was, is, and always will be measured flat by everybody in all circumstances that ever befall anybody if they want to measure Earth. Doesn't matter, like I said earlier, if you're a ball believer, you'll still require surface level, you'll still reference sea level, you'll still measure Earth flat for your ball belief. Which means I've got to get the mess around, it seems. I've got to be censored, it seems. I've got to struggle to pay my mortgage, it seems. I've got to take on extra jobs like flogging microphones and writing books just to cover my 10 years of experience on YouTube, because YouTube are censoring me, and my comments, and my replies to comments, and hiding comments from me, and tolerating people constantly using sock accounts to come back again and again and again and again and again. So YouTube are allowing people like Buck Sodbuster in my comment section, I'll put it up for the audience to see exactly what I'm talking about, to constantly spam me in spite of being banned. So this Buck Sodbuster character, who's a liar, has been banned. So what's he doing? He's coming back with hundreds of sock accounts to continually spam abuse. Now, I am absolutely sick of YouTube tolerating this kind of garbage. So, in essence, this person's allowed to have multiple accounts with the exact same name. So if he gets banned, he can just come back again and again and again and again and again to harass me. It's harassment. Now, it doesn't seem to matter that I report Buck Sodbuster to YouTube with the little flag button for harassment. Nothing changes. He's got hundreds of sock accounts. In his delusional mind, we want to go over and talk to him. We don't. I've banned him, but he's still here. Why? Well, because YouTube tolerates this kind of crap.
As well, Nathan, is if YouTube had the chance, they'd use any retaliation that you make against him as vigilante justice. So therefore, he'd be now the victim.
Yeah, exactly. So he's in the chat going, woohoo! Like what? Well done, you can be a scumbag in spite of me banning you multiple times, Buck Sodbuster. You know, you've gone around telling people that we really want to be participating in discussions with you on platforms we're not on. And we don't. But in spite of me banning this person multiple times, it doesn't seem to matter. Multiple sock accounts, hundreds of them that YouTube tolerate. And as you correctly point out, if I was to retaliate, they would hold that against me in a heartbeat. But they'll tolerate harassment of me by this commenter and allow him to have hundreds of accounts to harass me with. So I effectively can't ban this person. Why? Well, because YouTube allows people to have hundreds of sock accounts on the same name. I know. Meanwhile, the actual argument is as follows. Earth is measured flat by everyone, always and without exception. If you're in a plane, you're going to fly measuring your height off surface level for straight and level flight, called out by flight controllers on the ground when they tell you to ascend to a certain flight level. Flight level measured from sea level. And surface level, that's Earth being measured flat. There aren't any exceptions. If you want to develop a ball to believe in, you'll be measuring horizontal distance measurements and areas of equal altitude from Polaris to develop the systems that you use to wrap around a ball that are developed from flat Earth angle measurements and areas of equal elevation. These are all flat Earth prerequisites that are the only measurements of Earth, and they are all flat. So what do I get as a result of pointing out these facts? Well, I get censored. I get harassed. I get told to jump off buildings. I get told that I'm abusing my kids. None of which is the case. The only thing that actually is the case is that you, me, and everybody who measures Earth measure it flat. Why should I have to tolerate such abuse and scumbaggery from my opponents for being right and pointing out how Earth gets measured in all instances? It's not like I'm saying something radical. I'm talking about how Earth gets measured. YouTube is complicit in the sock account going stalking. Gang stalking, rather. Yeah, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yeah, completely complicit. They don't give a crap. Like I say, they're more than happy censor me for talking about the same subject matters that other people on the internet can get away with talking. If you're talking about measuring areas of equal elevation, but after you describe the flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle to form a circle of equal altitude, you then go on to say because you're on a ball, in contradiction of the actual measurement you've described, then you're okay on YouTube. YouTube will tolerate you. But if I say you measure Earth flat with areas of equal elevation, that means Earth's measured flat with areas of equal elevation. That's a modus ponens argument, a logical consistency, as opposed to a logical inconsistency that violates the base measurement. When you say Earth's measured flat with areas of equal elevation and elevation angles off surface level, because Earth's a ball, that's a contradiction in terms. Oh, well, then you could be monetized. You can make a living. Me saying Earth's measured flat because it's measured flat isn't tolerated. It's absolutely outrageous. And I'm frankly sick of it. Now, it could be just because I'm incredibly unwell currently, but even when I'm sick, I haven't got enough money coming in to be able to have a day off sick. I've still got to run my YouTube channel in the face of sickness. Why? Because that's what YouTube have deemed reasonable. It's reasonable that I'm harassed constantly. It's reasonable that people can leave comments claiming I beat my kids in my own comment section and then YouTube not show them to me in YouTube Studio. It's an outrage how we are treated, frankly.
It's like you owning a shop in a mall and you ban someone from your shop and then he turns up in a new set of clothes and the mall insists that he's now allowed in because he's changed his clothes.
Yeah. Oh, well, he's got a hood on now. It's a different person.
It is exactly the same thing as that. Wow. And then you being the creator of videos. See, I've never created a video on YouTube. My comments, like when I leave a comment somewhere, it gets deleted, or it's weird that you're having the same issues as someone who's not actually making the content. I figured you'd be able to see literally everything on there. But that's crazy.
No, it started off with me having to go into newest first, as opposed to unpublished
Right.
comments. And then top comments became what I'd have to search for. Then top comments was removed from my YouTube studio, so I can't search top comments anymore at all. So in other words, I have to go into a browser. Now, when you're limited for time, doing 3 jobs, and your daily routine is made up of going through the comment section for 2 channels and then getting on with the rest of your day. But no, I know I'll have to add an extra hour on so I can go through each and every bloody video on the browser tab rather than studio, which is what it's designed for, so that I can find out if people are claiming I beat my kids to remove these scumbags from my channel. And when I'm getting views at all, it's absolutely cobbled tool crap. And then other scumbags say, oh, look, nobody's interested in Flat Earth. They don't mention that there's plenty of views to go around, and they're dished out to people like Dave McKeegan and Simon Dan, and not Professor Dave Explains. They get plenty of views when covering Flat Earth. Apparently there's nobody interested. What, in looking at Flat Earth? No, we're just censored. Like, really heavily censored.
Simon Dan doesn't only cover Flat Earth, he measures Earth flat as well. And he got 1,000 of his mates to participate in exactly that.
Yeah. So YouTube will tolerate Simon Dan measuring Earth flat 1,000+ times from surface level for a surface level elevation angle measurement to the sun. Why? Well, because Dan's claiming that his flat Earth only measurement of surface level, it's called an elevation angle, elevation being off the surface, is a globe proof. No, it's a contradiction in terms. It's a lie. But YouTube like lying to their audience. They're more than happy to promote bullshitters and liars like Simon Dan. And when I point out, no, you're measuring surface level, it's part of the angle you are measuring, and you are measuring Earth flat thousands of times. Oh, well, then just don't let Nathan reach any audience. Don't even let him reach his own subscribers. Remove him, essentially, from the searches. And then what do we do with the people who do search for Flat Earth? Oh, well, we'll just put Simon Dan's video up for their indulgement while he lies to them about a Flat Earth only measurement proving a globe. No, you're violating the base principle of your measurement. But because he says that means Earth is globe after measuring Earth flat 1,000 times, yeah, Dan's okay. It's okay to lie to you, the audience. Me saying you measure Earth flat, there's nothing else to add. It's just a fact. Dan's measuring Earth flat. Do I need to draw a conclusion when it's a measurement he's making?
Go
ahead.
So it's very telling. It's very telling, though, isn't it? Really, Nathan, because we've got to the bare knuckles of this discussion now, and we can describe and discuss how actually Earth is measured, and that's been measured for all these years, and that's the truth. And people don't want that information to go out there, so they'll do anything to try and stop it, and that's what they're doing with you.
Assassinate the character. Nathan's a character. Assassinate him. He's telling everybody the world's measured flat.
Because it is. By everyone, always, and without exception. That's the point. So when someone like Dave McKeegan comes along and says, Nathan says the NTSB need a flat Earth. No, they've got measurements. It's called pitch data, Dave McKeegan. They're measuring flight level off surface level with a measurement of surface level called mean sea level. You're seeing a repeating theme here. It's not like I'm saying something outrageous, is it? These are facts. Planes fly in straight and level flight. Now, do I need to prove it? Yeah, it seemed past tense that we did have to prove it. And we did prove it. With pitch data. That's measurements from black boxes used when investigating life and death. That's plane crashes. Now, again, am I saying something outrageous when I say that Earth is measured flat from sea level for straight and level flight? Is there something ambiguous in level flight? No, we got measurements to show that is exactly what it means. Flight level from surface level, nose up with respect to horizontal, axiomatically proving beyond all doubt that Earth is and can only be measured flat. But if you're Dave McKeegan, you'll say, well, that means it's not flat. Well, it does. It means we are measuring Earth flat. There's no conclusion needed. It's a statement of absolute fact. But I'm sure Dave's not struggling. I'm sure he's not in poor health and struggling to maintain his view count, while other shitbags out there claim that, oh, no one's interested in flat Earth. Oh, they're plenty interested in what YouTube provides them, while my comments and replies are hidden from my audience. And so are my videos, hidden from my own subscription base, to the point where scumbags can show that statistically as being a massive drop-off in views. Well, my channel's still growing. I'm still gaining subscribers. But am I gaining views? Nah, because even the people who subscribe to me don't get delivered my content. They get delivered Dave's content while he lies to you about straight and level flight, measured off surface level, with mean sea level and altitude measured off the sea level. Perpendicular to a plane, that's what height is. Good.
Just going to say,
You're
it's all
public enemy
arse
number one.
Sorry, Neil. I'm saying it's all arse about face. I mean, when we talk about the mean sea level being the baseline for all measurements on Earth, straight and level flight, elevation angles, all what we're discussing, and people will turn around and say that's ludicrous and level's not level. Yet when you watch something like we watched yesterday or the day before of someone describing how latitude's measured from inside the Earth off a horizontal plane to a luminary, which is outside of the ball that they're standing in, that's not ludicrous, is it? That's just perfectly normal.
Yeah, if you're going to say, oh, well, we measure what's on screen now. This is what Dave McKeegan and Simon Dan measured. It's an elevation angle measurement from surface level or sea level to the sun. One line forming the horizontal, the other forming the angle to the sun. Without the horizontal, you can have no angle. Now, this is a flat Earth prerequisite that Dave measured for 24 hours in Antarctica. I keep forgetting he's a complete idiot and was outsmarted by a frickin' tripod. This fugly golem couldn't even cope with his own equipment. But he's the one who'll be promoted while he lies about his flat Earth measurements and lies about NTSB pitch data measured from sea level for altitude. That's level flight being measured, parallel with the ground. Yeah, of course he will. Because that's what YouTube wants you, my audience, to see. Not me, not the facts, laid out in the most crystal clear of terms. Yeah, when a flight controller calls out your flight level for the aircraft, measured with an altimeter, reference to sea level, that means Earth's a ball? That's a complete contradiction in terms that you will be lied to about by people like Fugly Dave, who can't even use a frickin' tripod. These idiots that can't even manage to use an equatorial mount are dictating to you what the NTSB pitch data means. Yeah, because most people are lazy. They won't even look at the actual measured data. They won't even pay attention to the fact it's being described in a way that can only axiomatically be from a flat Earth. It's flight level. Does that mean a ball? Well, it does if you're watching Dave McKeegan, because he's having every single view funneled to him. That's what's happening. Please share the show. If you want to combat this, the only thing that we can do to overcome the horrendous YouTube censorship and the absolutely egregious situation where I can't even see my own freaking comments in YouTube Studio. And if I do respond, they get removed in favour of people claiming I abuse my kids. Then you have to share the show. That's the only thing we can do to combat this horrendous treatment we receive at the hands of YouTube, who promote scumbags and liars and deceivers.
Or we could put out a book too.
We could. I'm waiting for the copy that exists to be sent to me by QE. Now, I don't want to get too stroppy with him because his messages, as far as I can see on Skype, haven't been read yet. But when I'm impatient and poorly, I just want to get my copy of my book back from him, and he hasn't sent it me yet, which is deeply irritating. Now, I'll hold off getting really stroppy with him for now, but it's going to reach a point where I start getting quite stroppy with the guy.
Just tell him, what if you die, like he said to Adam? Hey, what if you die? That's what I would do. Use his own wit against him.
Well, like I say, when I've
Probably
been...
like 10 miles deep in some woods, Nathan.
Probably. He's probably out playing with his bow and arrow or whatever. I don't care. What I do care about is getting my money increased so I don't have to be poorly and stressed about everything constantly with multiple jobs. Great video about censorship. What? Somebody's deleted the comment that was sent on the super chatter, but thank you very much, whoever you were, for the super chat. I only got to read it for a second before it was deleted. I assume that was...
See, we need to combat YouTube. That's what you need to combat.
Say again, Neil.
You got to go against them. If this is happening where they're deleting comments, then what's the point? I mean, aren't you using YouTube? Aren't you a customer of theirs?
Well, strictly, I'm an employee, aren't I? They're paying me.
Yeah, and who's the bigger customer base, Neil? The Globers or the Flat Earthers?
They're both delivering the same information. I'm delivering the same information. When what is on screen is presented by me, I say this angle is a measured angle to Polaris. The little star is Polaris. The angle can't come from hell. You can't measure the angle from the centre of a globe. It just means that the globe is a glorified protractor about which you will measure surface level for the corresponding elevation angle. That's what it is. But they will lie to you and say, oh, yeah, we measure from centre of hell. No, we don't. You can't get an elevation angle from hell. Oh, well, we measure it from the planar surface tangential to the ball. No, you don't. You measure it from the surface level. That's how it's measured. It's part of the angle. If you're only utilising a single point with respect to the surface, then you haven't got a straight line for an angle. So everything that they, the ballers, suggest requires Earth be measured flat and then converted into a position in hell so that you can believe you're on a ball based on the flat Earth measurement that you will require be measured from surface level. So if I say, well, we've measured surface level for an angle, but that means we're inside hell because Earth's a giant protractor, then what, I don't get censored because I'm bullshitting about being in hell?
I can't get my head around this. This is really like, I can't find words to explain how I feel about this. That people are actually explaining and demonstrating that the measurements that are taken for elevation angles, for mapping latitude and longitude, are all taken inside the Earth on a flat plane. I mean, how retarded is that? I can't get my head around it, and how people will just listen to somebody explain that with no qualms. It's unbelievable.
Not only explain it with no qualms, they'll get promoted algorithmically because they're suggesting that you can be in hell measuring an angle from a flat plane, the equatorial plane.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, me saying, well, we're just measuring the equatorial plane means heavy censorship.
It's fraudulent because we all know that isn't happening. It's an impossibility. Yet people are on YouTube with diagrams and explanations of how latitude grids and maps are being measured from the centre of Earth. It's a lie.
Yeah, it is absolutely a lie. What do we actually measure? Well, on screen now, there's a depiction of the equatorial plane inside what can be described as a glorified protractor. Well, this circle is what they will later draw maps on. Spherically. Like you're measuring through a ball? No, you're just measuring from the equatorial equator plane, basically. Like on screen. This circle of equal elevation derived from Polaris. If Polaris is at your zenith, as depicted here, it is directly above your head and you'd be at the North Pole. but north, south, east and west are still flat-only directions, and all angles with respect to Polaris dropping towards the horizon, to its outside extremity, that would be the equator, are measured from this flat surface. What's that? Oh, it's in a ball. No, it's not. Nobody's measuring angles inside a ball. We measure them on a plane. And the plane we're standing on is described as the equatorial plane. It's the plane that Dave McKeegan's EQ, that's equatorial mount, is referencing when he levelled his tripod to measure the sun for a 24-hour period with respect to the elevation angle from surface level with a tool that's referencing the equatorial plane. Now, but for the fact that Dave is a complete numpty and couldn't cope with his own equipment, he would have measured Earth flat for a full 24-hour period from the equatorial plane, like depicted here. Did he have a globe Earth wrapped around him? No, he did not. And suggesting that you've got parallel tangential planes means the surface level you're measuring has no surface reference to a ball. So what are we measuring? We're just measuring a plane. It's really simple. When you know how Earth is measured and how it's applied, you just measure the surface level. Like flights, for their straight and level flight parallel with surface level. That's what we measure. What's that? They convert from sphericity with gravitational 110-year out-of-date force pulling them. No, they don't. They just measure parallel to the ground. That's what they do. There's no complicated gravity being accounted for in equipment when a flight controller tells a plane to ascend to a flight level and then the black box records nose up to horizontal for the entirety of the straight and level flight measured off the measured sea level. That's just measuring Earth flat. But if you go to Simon Dan or you go to Dave McKeegan, they'll lie to you and get promoted by YouTube. Well, we get the mess around. Like I say, it's absolutely egregious and outrageous.
Yeah, that's the point I've been trying to get across to people, trying to explain to them how they take their measurements from the center of the Earth, and they're just putting them on the surface that are measured from the beginning on the surface. And it seems like something so simple to comprehend, people just, they put up a wall and they don't want to hear it. It's like unreal.
They've been doing it for years. Eratosthenes started, didn't he? He measured angles on the surface of Earth, and then had to presume a 360-degree spherical sphere and put himself inside that with a line drawn across it, the plane, and then segment the angles from that plane outwards to the outward edge of the ball. They've been doing it all the time. It's stupid.
Yeah, but I try to point that out. Yeah, that's the surface you're showing me. You're showing me the surface. Nobody's going to the center of the Earth. This is how they duped everybody. And people just resist. They do not want to hear it. Then they take you into the, all the world is wrong and it's just you guys are right. No. It's just measured. That's it for everybody.
Yeah, we're not saying the whole world's wrong. Quite the contrary. I'm saying Dave McKeegan's measurement from surface level is Dave McKeegan's measurement from surface level. That's the end of the statement. There's nothing else to add. He's measuring Earth flat. So what, we're right and they're wrong? No, that's called the rock and the hard place. If they're wrong, because you say I'm wrong when I point out how they measure Earth flat, then they haven't got any Earth measurements. They rely on Earth being measured flat. That's how the ball gets created. If you don't measure Earth flat, you don't have any measurements to create a ball with. So you require Earth to be measured flat. That's why the censorship's so high. Before now, it was a game where flat earthers painted the world as being a ball that didn't work, rather than pointing out the ball works by measuring Earth flat in all instances and without exception. Now that we're pointing out that, the game's not so fun anymore because it's not rigged for flat earthers to explain to ball earthers how if we ignore that travelling north is a flat-only direction on a compass that's flat, with horizontal linear distance measurements on the flat maps, with the flat scales for the flat distances, then we can ignore all of the above and pretend north's above us, inside a ball, on an equatorial plane that will measure the angles and reference the outside edge of a ball that we're not standing on. Then it's okay, because then we've ignored all flat Earth prerequisites and elevation angle measurements of surface level or sea level. We've ignored the parallel sky and called Earth a protractor wrapped around us. And if we can just pretend that we haven't measured Earth at all, because the measurements of Earth are flat, very inconvenient, and just argue about how a horizontal linear distance measurement, that's flat, would preclude us from seeing a geometric horizon we debunked 5 years ago, yeah, then we've ignored all flat Earth prerequisites and angle measurements and distance measurements that require the surface be flat for us to suggest that there's a limitation to our view based on ball belief. Ignore every single flat Earth measurement and only argue about not seeing too far, when too far is based on us measuring Earth flat with horizontal distance and elevation off surface level. So, but for the fact that we must measure Earth flat to assert that we see too far, it'd be very convenient if we just ignored those flat Earth prerequisites and went straight to the see too far bit, like every numpty flat earther has done for the last 10 years. And if they do, they'll get promoted. Go ahead.
That's not the only... Sorry. I think Refracted wants to say something.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm digging Nathan going off on it. Like, that's exactly the problem.
Well, you have other, that's the reason why you have certain people going around saying the most important thing we have to prove is that Earth is not turning. Once we can prove that, then we could declare to everybody that the Earth is flat. Look, it's not moving.
Let's just point that out. If I say Earth is not a giant roast chicken, it is not incumbent on me to prove non-positivity. I don't have to go away and debunk somebody else's claim that Earth isn't something. If you want to suggest that it is turning, then the burden of proof is on you. There is absolutely no requirement whatsoever for me to prove non-positivity. I don't need to prove it's not turning. You need to prove it is. And the globe Earth assertion of turning comes with Coriolis effect. That would be a non-inertial turning reference frame, turning beneath an inertial reference frame to show a not actual deflection of all items in the inertial frame of reference, as observed from the non-inertial turning frame of reference Earth as a sphere is claimed to be. Now, do I need to go through that, even though I can concisely debunk the assertion that we're not turning underneath aeroplanes 1,000 miles an hour at the equator? We're not. We'd notice. But it's your positive claim that you need to prove if you want to believe we are turning. But that's the game. We're told as flat earthers that we need to disprove turning. No. To be turning, we'd need a flat, non-inertial turning reference frame to be in effect. So we're going to need a flat, non-inertial turning reference frame that they haven't proven. Well, then Earth will be flat before we do anything, won't it? For it to be a non-inertial turning reference frame. No, we haven't got this necessity to debunk something that they haven't proven. It's called a burden of proof reversal. It's a fallacy that every flat Earth idiot who decides that they're going to try and disprove a non-positive claim is engaged in. You don't need to succumb to a burden of proof reversal fallacy when someone suggests that we are turning. If you want to get into the discussion, understand how Coriolis deflection is claimed to work on a turning flat surface known as a non-inertial turning reference frame. Before we do that, know that that's flat. Their claim requires a flat surface level that turns that they haven't proven. So we're going to need a flat Earth for that then, before we do anything. Yeah, I'm not going to be getting involved with non-inertial turning flat reference frames, because we'd notice if we were turning underneath things 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. We'd definitely notice if the Earth turned underneath you, me and everything else not attached to the surface when you jumped up and down or travelled in an aeroplane or went up in a hot air balloon. We'd notice. We don't, because it doesn't happen. But wouldn't it be useful if we, the flat earthers, harped on about how we can prove it isn't turning? Yeah, that'd be very useful to our opponent's argument, because then we're not talking about the flat plane of reference that they're using in the example they can't demonstrate on Earth. We don't need to get involved in this argument. What we, the flat earthers, do need to do is understand exactly how flat Earth gets measured by our opponents. Dan's measured Earth flat 1,000 times. Why do you think he had to say, quote, "We don't only measure Earth flat," end quote, Simon Dan? Well, because he measured Earth flat 1,000 times. That's why he's got to disclaim that's not the only way we measure Earth. Yeah, well, it's the way he measured Earth. Flat. 1,000 times with surface level. And every single participant that joined in with Dan measured Earth flat. Oh, we don't only measure Earth flat. Yeah, we do. You, Simon Dan, only measured Earth flat 1,000 times. Dave McKeegan only measured Earth flat for 24 hours in Antarctica. I keep forgetting how stupid Dave McKeegan is. But for the fact that Dave McKeegan was outsmarted by his own tripod, he would have measured Earth flat for a 24-hour period from surface level with elevation angles. But unfortunately, he's very stupid. So if you're listening to Dave describe how the NTSB pitch data doesn't prove Earth's flat, then you don't understand how surface level, that's measured flat with sea level, the mean thereof, is used for altimeters to reference straight and level flight when investigating death. These are facts. Now, I don't need to make an explanation thereafter. I don't need to say, well, therefore Earth's flat. It's measured flat by everyone, always and without exception.
Well, the other way of measuring
George first.
The other way of measuring the Earth flat is with longitude, and we use this all the time: AM and PM. So anti-meridian and post-meridian. So anti-meridian would be less 1 hour or less 2 hours from Greenwich Mean Time, and post-meridian PM will be an hour or two past the meridian. So what is the meridian? The meridian is, imagine at Greenwich, you'll have a straight line north-south, and the elevation angles of the sun, anti-meridian before noon, and post-meridian after noon. So to measure longitude, you just need a clock.
Yeah. And they used to get the reference for their chronometers from Greenwich. I believe there's a bulb that they used to use back in the day that would drop on the hour so that you could reference from a long distance away where you reach the hour on the hour with a telescope looking at, I think it's Greenwich. Is that where they have that little ball that drops? I'd have to look it up. It's a while since I've looked this up. But yeah, precisely. These are all flat Earth measurements. They're all prerequisite two-dimensional Cartesian grids when in practical application. Like on your maps. Like if you want to know how flat Earth is, look at a map and look at the scale on it for distance. Is it curving? No, it's not curving. It's flat and linear and horizontal in nature. Like all distance measurements on map when referencing horizontal distances for direction. That's north, south, east and west. All of which require Earth be flat. Now, if I added on to the end of that sentence, but that means Earth's a ball, then I wouldn't have to be e-begging and pointing out how poor I am and how much I'm struggling to pay my 2 mortgages that I've now got as a result of being a flat earther and doing this for 10 years. That's the situation I'm in. Got to e-beg constantly just to pay the mortgages, 2 of them. Why? Well, because YouTube don't see fit to allow me an audience when I say we measure Earth flat with horizontal distance measurements like on maps. Is that somehow contestable? No, it's an absolute statement of fact. It's just I don't lie to my audience after the fact and say, therefore Earth's a ball.
I mean, everything that goes on this Earth had to be developed around the fact that most of the Earth's covered in flat level water. Yeah, so that's what we've had to work with from day one. It's called sea level. Sorry, I mean mean sea level. The average level base, just in case we need to measure above the surface of this place. Heights put into place above and below the 0 degree base. Elevation now in place. Cartography, navigation, guiding the human race. Sea level. Sorry, I mean mean sea level. The standard basis for aviation travel. Straight and level flight. That's right. Reinforcing altitude day and night. Sea level. Sorry,
I mean mean sea level. One continuous body of water seeking level throughout the world.
Very good.
That gave me goosebumps. That was so well read. That was exceptional.
Yeah.
You've really cheered me up with that. That has literally given me goosebumps. The hairs on the back of my hand are standing up. Perfect. That was brilliant.
That's a new one, right?
No, it's the same one, but it's just he did it better this time. He's done it 3 times so far.
It is new though, Neil, yeah.
Oh, is it new? Is that not the one that you read out previously? Oh, it is the new one.
It's the latest.
It's the latest one, yeah. But we have heard it twice before. It's just that was read much better this time.
Correct.
Excellent. That's my favourite as of now. It wasn't previously. The Greeks all knew that was the best one prior to this one, but that's now second fiddle. This is easily the best poem. That was brilliant.
Can somebody tell me how a sundial works?
A flat, Neil.
I have a problem here because it says, contrary to flat Earth claims, the way sundials work provides strong evidence that the Earth is a rotating sphere, not a stationary flat plane. How is that possible?
It isn't. If you're describing how the sun moves over a flat sundial to give you the time, you're describing the movement of the sun with respect to a horizontal plane of reference that gives you the time on it. But if I say, oh, we're measuring the sun on a sundial with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, therefore Earth's a ball, then what? I don't have to suffer egregious censorship because I create a contradiction in terms in my statements. And that's what is the situation, by the way. If I completely contradict the actual surface level horizontal plane measurements that we in this instance get time from, then I don't have to suffer horrendous censorship for just putting a full stop at the end of the statement of fact. Yeah, we're measuring a horizontal plane, Neil. Statement of fact. Censor him immediately! Don't allow him to see any comments where he gets called a child abuser.
I mean, it's something
Yeah,
so
the sundial
simple.
works
It's
the same
measuring
way
angles,
as
shadows.
the claim
Hold
of
on, George.
Aristophanes.
Neil first. Then George. Go ahead, Neil.
No, I'm just saying it's so basic. It's measuring shadows. It's talking about angles. These things cannot be acquired on a ball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly
George.
my point. It's the casting of shadows on the sundial. Like Nathan was saying in Greenwich, there's this massive ball that they drop. Yeah, that's representative of the zenith of the sun. So when the sun is right above, on its zenith, 90 degrees above your head, that will be 12 noon. So anti-meridium and post-meridium, AM and PM.
Perfect. Is there anything else? Because I do need to do a little call to action. So if you are watching this and you haven't done so already, please smash the share button and stick this video on your favourite social media platform, be it Skype or Bebo or MySpace or whatever it is you're using. There's only a couple of clicks and whatever it is that you use as your social media platform will appear in that little box that appears when you click on the button that says share. One more click and it will deliver that link for this show to your social media platform. In reality, more likely than not, X or Facebook. So please share the show on Facebook and X. Bebo, MySpace and Skype being defunct, obviously done for humorous effect. But yeah, it'd be great if you did actually share the show if you haven't done so already. If you have already clicked the share button, a massive thank you to you for doing so. That is the only reason we currently have over 70 people watching, because people share the show on a regular basis. So as I say, if you haven't done so already, please click the share button. And if you have, thank you very much indeed. Also, if you'd like to support this channel, I am struggling financially. It's a horrendous thing to have to admit as an eBayer. That's my second job. Try and get the job I'm doing correct. As a YouTuber, it's a struggle to actually pay the bills at the moment. Now, that could be because I've had a couple of days off sick. Should really be in bed right now. I'm feeling the pain as we speak, but it'd be great if I could actually keep the lights on and keep the mortgages paid. So if you did want to support me via PayPal or Patreon, or indeed the Super Chat, then those links are below this video. So if you have, obviously there's been a couple of Super Chats already. Thank you very much indeed. I really do appreciate it. And over the course of this week, there has been several people who have supported me via PayPal. Now, it isn't the case that I have to go to the extremes of starting up GoFundMes, but it will eventually reach that point if I don't receive some financial support. So as much as it is painful to have to e-beg, that's the situation that befalls me, because I'm talking about Earth being measured flat and then not saying that Earth's a ball after measuring Earth flat. So as a result, I get censorship, and therefore I'm struggling financially and do rely on my audience and their generosity just to get by, which is unfortunate, but that's the way of things. So I am literally sticking my cap out in front of me and doing the e-begging thing. Hopefully it won't come to the point where I have to do a GoFundMe campaign just to keep the bleeding lights on. There you go, that's it. That's my call to action done. Painful and embarrassing though it is to do so. Right, what else have we got to talk about? We've got at least 10 more minutes, and yeah, whether or not my painkillers are wearing off, but I'm really starting to feel the pain, so hopefully you guys can chat a little bit more before we do round out this show early, which I don't really want to do if I don't have to.
I saw that AI vid of you jumping around with the book. Is that book real?
Well, the book isn't written yet. That's why earlier on in this live show I'm getting a bit stroppy with QE, probably unnecessarily. That's mainly my illness coming out of me. But when I do finally get it from QE, the only copy that currently exists, I can carry on working on it and eventually actually get the damn thing published, because there's been maybe a 12-month delay on this book, which is frustrating in and of itself, hence me being a microphone salesman as opposed to a book salesman currently, which is getting even more irritating because I just don't want to do it anymore. But I do want to sell my book. I just need to get it finished. But I need to actually have it in my possession to do so. And yeah, I won't get too stroppy with QE. Like I say, he hasn't actually read the messages I've sent to him. I've sent him multiple, but he just hasn't read them according to my Teams updates that shows you when someone's looked at the messages. So I'm not going to get too stroppy with him. Because I did that with Adam. I did it about 3 weeks ago when I started getting more sick. I'm like, why are you ghosting me? And he's like, I do have a life. I'm doing other things. I'm not ghosting you. I just haven't seen your messages. That was Adam, not QE. So I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So I don't necessarily want to fall out with QE over this by the same token, if you know what I mean. But still, it's irritating and stressful, and I'm under the weather, so I'm constantly in and out of hospital. But to answer your question, is that the book cover? No, the book isn't finished. There isn't a book yet. It's still in the drafting process, so there is no book currently. There will be as soon as I can get hold of it and finish it. But that's down to QE, and I'm sure he will send it to me as soon as he reads my messages. But once I do, there will then be a book, and then there'll be a cover. But Len Lennox, shout out to you, by the way, Len Lennox. I really appreciate it. If you want to check out who Len Lennox is, just go to the videos tab on my homepage, and you'll see me republishing 2 or 3 of Len Lennox's AI videos of me doing backflips and looking like an astronaut doing twirls and stuff. Extremely amusing, if not slightly unnerving, as I turn into a completely different person in one of them. Like, the AI is interpreting what it thinks I am and turns me into a different person, which is just weird. Other than being a little bit unsettling, it's got, like I say, me and what AI interprets this space around me to be, with me jumping over desks, doing backflips, and then presenting a book that doesn't exist yet, and saying, buy my book, in a weird voice that isn't my own. So it's the first time I've had to do it. When I republish them, there's a little tab underneath the YouTube studio where it says, is this altered content? And it asks you a series of questions like, is this presenting an individual doing something that they didn't actually do? Now, when I'm doing backflips, it's like, no, I definitely didn't do that. I'm like, yes, definitely this is altered content, so that YouTube can keep a track of what is and isn't real on their website, which is perfectly reasonable. I'm not moaning about having to tick that tab. But yeah, those are not really, in case you didn't realise, me doing the backflips. I can't do a backflip. I certainly can't do a backflip with 180 turn in midair, which is what I'm doing on one of them. But yeah, that's Len Lennox. So if you could go and check out that video on my channel, you'll see a link to Len Lennox, who only had about 12 subscribers. I'll have to check if he's hopefully got some more subs off the back of that. But yeah, go and check him out and go and subscribe to Len Lennox.
Listen, there's been a delay because certain things have transpired in between. But I understand you're in financial distress. Don't rush to put it out before it's completed. Everybody's got to get together and got to get this thing going, like we were going before this thing happened, and get the book out properly. Hang in there, Nathan.
Well, like I say, Neil, at the moment I'm having to e-beg. Like, I hate having to say this, because typically I can say, well, I'm just on the right side of the knife edge. Well, it deeply upsets me when I'm not on the right side of the knife edge, because suddenly it affects the rest of my family around me. Like, it puts undue pressure on my wife. And I don't like that. You know, generally speaking, for a start, let's just point this out. While I do this show each day, my kids and wife are on the other side of that door over there. Now, I'm in the communal space, lounge, if you will, which completely gets converted every single day I do the show. Let's say I bring out cameras, I bring out lights, I bring out microphones. All of the equipment comes out from the sides and is now around. So there's hot lamps everywhere, cameras, microphones, expensive equipment, monitors, projectors sometimes, although when it's summer I don't like it because it's too hot. But there's equipment. In other words, it's not conducive for kids to be running around. Well, that means that in a 2-bedroom apartment, my wife and kids have to endure being in a very limited amount of space for however long I do the show for. Now, they have put up with this crap for 10 years. Now, obviously, the kids haven't been alive for 10 years. My eldest daughter's only 9, but you get the idea of what I'm pointing out. They're very tolerant in the incredibly small space that we occupy, so that I don't have to have my audience put up with my kids making noise in the background, for the most part. Now, their tolerance is pushed to the absolute limit when I go, I am actually struggling financially, and I'm putting my hand out. They don't or shouldn't have to put up with that when I've been 10 years as a YouTuber fighting for the greater good of Flat Earth, and what I'm fighting against isn't my inability to produce videos of a decent quality. It isn't my inability to present well or string a sentence together. It isn't my inability to use a tripod like Fugly Dave McKeegan. I'm not incompetent. But the people who are get all the views directed towards them, while other videographers suggest that Flat Earth's dying when they look at the statistics and suggest that statistically Flat Earth's on a decline. No, Flat Earth's being censored. But people still search it and get directed to our opponents. So 10 years into the game, I've got to stick my cap out in front of me and explain to my wife why I'm struggling to pay our mortgages. Very, very upsetting. But that's the way it is. Somebody's just sent me a PayPal, so I should really check out who that is. Might be one of my eBay sales. Might be somebody being generous. We'll find out in a moment.
See, there you go. People are going to help.
Shout out to Michael. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. The PayPal donation, Michael, really is appreciated. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
People will gather together and they will put their funds together and they will get you through this time. You have a great community here. I don't have to tell you that. You know you do. But just don't rush to get it out before it's time.
Also, though, on that, I'm not interfering, but you know what happened with Adam. You need constant copies of that up-to-date copy in places or with the trustworthy people, so that you've all got it to hand. Just saying.
Buried
Indeed.
under a tree, which only you know.
Say again?
Oh, never mind.
Under a tree. I won't ask to repeat.
He said it's buried under a tree, which only you know. Okay, well, here's the deal. This thing has to get work done. We gotta start getting busy again. Certain circumstances cause us to get lackadaisical, and now it's just like it feels like it's getting pushed off, and it's not getting that much attention. This needs the final attention that it needs to get it out before the holidays, because I have people that I want to buy copies for. This is very important to get it out by the holiday.
Well, that's down to me. To be honest, Neil, it's the pressure in that regard will go on to me. Once I get hold of it, I need to go through it and do a final draft, and then it'll go off to the publisher. But that is down to me actually being able to do it. And for that, I can't do it with assistance. It's got to be me going through it to do that final drafting process. And obviously, I'm eternally grateful to everyone's helped up until this point. But yeah, I do need to retake ownership of it and get the work done to finalise it and then get it out to the publisher. But, that will happen in time. I'm not going to rush it. I will get a good book finished in due course. But it doesn't alter that. What annoys me more is that the only reason that book was initially created was to mitigate for my financial hardship. So here we are, 2 years later, and it still isn't published. That's frustrating. But there we go. Putting my hand out's frustrating. Having to sell microphones is frustrating. It's all frustrating. Like I say, the only thing that isn't frustrating is the argument itself. And this is why people support me, right? This is why I'm receiving PayPals and Patreonage and Super Chats. Because when it comes to the actual argument, there isn't one. There's no argument here. Earth is measured flat by everyone, always and without exception. If you don't believe me, just go and look at any of your guru's measurements if you're a bald believer. Go and look at Simon Dan measuring Earth flat 1,000 times with his participating audience and tell me that Earth isn't measured flat. Because then you'll be in that hard place where you have to deny the fundamental base premise of Earth measurement used by Simon Dan to suggest, by way of egregious lies and deceit, that you're on a ball when measuring Earth flat. Because that's what he's doing. So in terms of the argument, we've finally reached a point where there isn't one. There is no argument about Dave McKeegan's 24-hour measurements of Antarctic elevation angles. But for the fact he was outsmarted by his own tripod, the Dumbo. He'd have measured Earth flat for 24 hours off surface level. The equatorial plane is equatorial mount that he couldn't quite cope with using. That's a flat planar measurement off surface level for an angle to be an angle. What's that? It wasn't a flat measurement. So you haven't got any measurements then. You haven't got any angle measurements to the sun for 24 hours, but for the fact that Dave McKeegan couldn't cope with a tripod. Yeah, they are flat Earth measurements. They're angles off surface level. That's exactly what they are. Reference to the equatorial plane you think is in hell. Well, it isn't. This diagram showing you an equatorial plane that the EQ mount is referenced to in hell has no bearing on anything other than the flat plane you're actually going to be measuring for 24 hours, unless you're Dave and you can't cope with a tripod. Like I say, this isn't an argument anymore. It's just us taking the piss out of the people that YouTube actually funnel all the views to and make all the money off the subject because they add to their flat Earth measurements how Earth is a ball. Like Simon Dan. Oh, we've measured Earth flat with elevation angles, elevation being off surface level, for it to be an angle measurement. And now that means we can measure the ball sphericity. No, you can't. You're violating the base principle measurement. It's a contradiction in terms if you suggest the surface you just measured flat is now curving after extrapolation of the measurements you took off the flat surface. They're surface level measurements. So it comes to the argument, it's the only thing that isn't stressful. But that's the point, isn't it? Because we haven't got to argue anymore, and anybody listening to my show knows that it's no longer an argument. It's just a statement of absolute fact when it comes to Earth measurement. The same ones that we whistle past for 10 years as flat earthers, while we were helping our opponents by ignoring that north, south, east and west are planar directions, ignoring that the horizontal distance measurement to the horizon that's claimed to be blocking boats and buildings is a flat Earth horizontal linear distance. Or that the elevation that you're going to calculate 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height off a measured flat Earth to claim you've got a distance to horizon in the first place to block boats and buildings. Yeah, you're going to need 3 flat Earth prerequisites and surface level measurements to make this assertion that every flat earther whistle past for 10 years. But if I say, if we measure Earth flat with horizontal distance measurement and we measure our height off surface level to achieve a parallel eye level with surface level, then Earth's a ball because I can suggest there's a distance to horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet off a flat Earth that we measure with linear distance. Horizontally. Flat. Therefore it's a ball. Then I won't get censored? What an absolute disgusting affair. YouTube are scum.
Hey, does the sundial predate the globe? I think it does, right?
Yes, Neil, it does.
So then this is baloney because it says that in a flat Earth model, it would always be vertical 90 degrees because there is no axis of rotation. This is not how a working sundial are constructed. They were constructed way before the ball. There's contradictions all over this. And if people can't see that when they look certain things up and read them, that they're whistling right past all the flat Earth proofs, then they deserve to stay on the ball. Keep spinning.
Yeah, time requires
It's not just
a
sundials.
horizontal plane.
Not just the sundials.
You need a flat Earth.
Cartography, mapping, all of that predates the globe.
Yeah,
It's all from sea level as well.
So it has nothing to do with rotation. And everything I'm reading, they're talking about angles and shadows.
It's an angle.
What's going on here?
What's going on is the contradiction is what's favoured. If you contradict the surface level measurement of Earth as a horizontal plane, then YouTube will tolerate you and promote you. Because you're claiming these flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements, surface level measurements, and in this case, sundials, actually prove a ball. No, they don't. They contradict the initial measurement. But saying the contradiction after the fact means YouTube will promote you. It's a disgusting state of affairs. Lies are promoted.
Yeah, and this is the last thing I'll read because that's obvious what's going on. For an accurate sundial, the gnomon, the part that casts a shadow, did I pronounce that right? Gnomons, the gnomon's angle, must be angled to be perfectly parallel to the Earth's rotational axis. That's a straight up lie.
Yep. Well, my computer's starting to hang and things are starting to give me the whirly whirl. My chat's disappeared. So for whatever reason, I'm now getting messed around even on my own live stream. So I think it's probably the most appropriate time to round out and say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Right, there'll be a relatively short after show.
Yeah, so it seems.
All right, well, thank you for
even
today anyway.
going
Nathan.
with 15-degree an hour rotation of the Earth, you're going to need a flat plane for that.
Yeah, it says northern hemisphere versus southern hemisphere. Sundials in the northern hemisphere have hour lines that cause the shadow to move clockwise. In the southern hemisphere, sundials are mirror images, and the shadows move counterclockwise. This would be impossible on a flat Earth model, where the sun follows a horizontal orbit over a single plane.
So it's admitting that the sun's moving over a horizontal plane then?
Yep.
Wow. So they even incorporate the contradiction after the fact. Not possible on a flat Earth model. What model? What are you babbling about? But it will work on a globe because it works on a horizontal plane. No, it's working on a horizontal plane. In both instances. North and south. What a north? Is north anything other than a horizontal directionality? No, north's a horizontal directionality. What about south? Yeah, that's horizontal too. So because we're talking about horizontals, it means it's a ball? Complete nonsense. But that's the situation, that's the world that we live in. A world of complete deceit.
Yeah, and they put us on this flat Earth model, which has a local sun. But we don't adhere to a distance. We don't claim a distance. It says constant angular rate. The Earth's rotation causes the sun's apparent position to change by a consistent 15 degree per hour everywhere on the globe. For this reason, equatorial sundials can use evenly spaced hour markers. A flat Earth model with a local sun will cause the sun's apparent angular speed to vary dramatically depending on the observer's position, leading to distorted time measurements. We never claimed the local sun. I never did.
Well, it has to be local if I can see it.
Yes. Local means you can see it. Of course, when they put their ball Earth around you as a glorified protractor, they don't have any distance to their modelled stars. They're infinitely distant.
Well, 15 degrees, we're talking about angles. And angular size, again, it's angles. They cannot have angles from a globe, only from a flat plane.
Yeah, it seems like they whistle right past that. That's the trick. That's always been the trick, though, if you think about it.
Yep.
Just skip right on past the flat Earth that you just used.
Yep. Or completely contradict the flat Earth that you've used and suggest that it's a ball, and then reiterate the flat Earth measurements that are required as a prerequisite after you've said it's a ball. Shout out to David for hitting me up on PayPal. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. I don't give out surnames because I don't check if they want me to actually shout them out at all. So if I just use their first name, they'll know who they are if they listen back to this. But thank you very much for the PayPal. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Nathan. That was me.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we have the first name now.
Yeah, don't dox him. My bad.
Yeah, dude, it really sucks that YouTube is like that, man. Like, that really, it's kind of scary, you know? Like, just the fact that they do that to anyone, not just specifically flat earthers, but like, man, it just, yeah, I feel you. These guys that, like Dave Weiss and all these other losers, they get so many views and they're talking about the same thing.
No, they're not.
They're not.
No, they're not.
What they're doing is...
Well, I mean, the same basic subject matter.
No, they're
but
not.
Yeah.
They're really not. That's Dave Weiss, as you mentioned him specifically, talk about this subject. What he talks about is how Earth is not a sphere. And then he'll whistle past how Earth gets measured flat with horizontal linear distance to suggest that we see too far. Well, how do you know how far we're seeing when the far bit, that's the distance, is measured flat? But just don't mention it. So what he's doing is helping them. That's what he's actually doing. He's helping them. The ballers, that is. By arguing and whistling past the flat Earth measurements that we must use to make the ball argument in the first place. The too far that flat earthers all over the plane have used till this point to suggest that we're not on a ball, that too far claim is a flat Earth measurement that's being ignored. The distance is horizontal and linear, isn't it? The altitude's measured off surface level. You need a flat Earth, you need a flat Earth for eye level to be parallel with it, and you need horizontal distance measurement, all of which is ignored by David Weiss. So he's helping them. That's why he's getting the views. Me saying, well, we measure Earth flat with the horizontal distance in the Earth curve calculator, therefore to make an assertion that we're on a ball and we've got a distance to horizon requires we measure Earth flat at least twice, once with the surface level altitude off the surface level and the other for the distance in linear miles. So where's the ball bit coming in if we're measuring Earth flat twice? It's never mentioned by Dave, it's never mentioned by Mark, it's never mentioned by Patricia Steer, it's never mentioned by Jaron. And when it comes to the uncomfortable truth of Earth being measured flat in all instances, people like Jaron will say, oh, that's because it's like a Home Depot, and justify it like the shill he is.
Well, isn't it crazy that YouTube is like privy to that? Like, they understand what's happening enough to know that Dave Weiss is helping them, so he's good to go. We can give him views and let him, thrive. But even though he's
just individuals, it's not necessarily the case that when people perceive this algorithm, well, what do you mean algorithm? What's an algorithm? It's created by men. So you're telling me that there isn't people that watch over what YouTube content gets put out there and decide who is deemed worthy of getting views and who isn't? Well, if you're going to put out the shilly Earth's not a ball rhetoric, then you're assisting Globe Earth, and that can be assessed on a case-by-case basis. There's not that many flat Earth videographers out there, is there?
No,
right.
Not really.
So it's not all completely governed by algorithm. There's going to be oversight by men, and those men will go, oh yeah, this isn't really conducive. But yeah.
But don't they like still have to have like a pretty good understanding of how Dave Weiss is like helping them to like, because they have to know more, they have to have a pretty decent understanding to even recognize that these other flat earthers are phonies.
I don't know. You're asking me to divine the thoughts of men that I've never met.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I'm just saying you're asking me to divine the thoughts of men I've never met. So I can't give you an answer to that.
Right, yeah. Well, not necessarily to like divine their thoughts, but I guess I'm just pointing out. I feel like it's kind of strange that they're like in the know enough to know that these guys are fakes, but a lot, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
I wonder if a lot of it has to do with the comment sections on his videos. Because if you read his comments, like it's very clear that there's an apparent. It seems like one side is winning, and it's like Globers go in there and just like trounce all over the people who are supporting him. And I wonder if that has an effect on his stuff getting pushed. Like, oh, all the flat earthers look stupid in the comments, so this is going to go to the top of the list. Whereas in Nathan's videos, there's no arguments in his comments on any of his videos really, because there's nothing that they can come back with.
Well, when they do, at the
Except
moment, that gets hidden from me, as I said at the beginning of this show, the live show that is, and the pre-show. It's like,
Right.
if I can't even see them making those comments, oh, you don't understand how travelling north along a circle of equal altitude proves a ball. If I don't see that comment and someone comes along to the video and sees that, they're going to go, oh, Nathan doesn't understand how, because he's not responded. Well, if I can't see the comment and I can't respond, then that's quite effective, isn't it? Whereas if I come in and go, what are you babbling about? North is flat. The distance you're describing is flat. The area of equal elevation you're saying you measure an angle from is flat. The angle itself is flat. You've got 4 flat Earth prerequisites and you're saying you live on a ball? No. But obviously, like I say, if you can censor the comments from me personally as the videographer, then that's the only effectiveness that they can have for the very limited audience I do get.
The game is rigged. We have to understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't think it's like what Bax said about the comments, because it seems like Nathan's videos are just flagged from the moment they're uploaded. Like, because it's not like some of them are gonna get a bunch of views and someone left comments, so this one's gonna get censored. But it's like all of them carte blanche, man. Like,
It is. It's always been like that, though. That's why it took me over a year of being interested in this subject before I even figured out who you guys were. Like the only people I thought Dave Weiss and Jaron were like the only flat earthers on YouTube, because that's the only things I would be able to find just by typing in that flat Earth on the YouTube search bar. Like you only get certain ones.
So the only person you could find was Dave, quote, it could be a really big ball, or Jaron, Earth is like a Home Depot because I've been to Antarctica and Earth is measured flat because it's a big ball. Yeah, so it seems weird that the only people that are talking about Earth being flat are the ones that actually promote Earth being a ball, Dave and Jaron. Interesting.
Yeah, but this is
even
a
better.
problem. Hold on, this is a problem because at some point they had to be on a level, because that's how I found your show. David Weiss saying on a Globebusters, when he was on one of their shows, said, I can't get enough of these guys on the other side of the pond. That Nathan Oakley on Flat Earth Debate. I never heard of you until David Weiss said those words. Then I started looking for you. So at some point, they had to be on, you know what I'm saying, on the right track. They had to be sincere, because why would they promote you?
Probably because at the time, when they were promoting us, we weren't talking about Earth being measured flat. We hadn't figured out the trick yet. So therefore, we were just as bad as every other conspiratard flat earther. Right?
Ah, I see. Yeah. That's got to be it.
Second, we
That
were
has to be it.
deviating from it's quite convenient if all the flat earthers talk about how we see too far, and the distance to horizon is the most important thing, because so long as they don't mention that the distance itself requires Earth be measured flat, then they're going to be arguing about how it isn't a ball, and we can argue about how it is a ball. Very, very beneficial.
2 names I can add to that list as well is Witsit and Dell, as they were presented to me when I typed in Flat Earth around 2021.
Yeah, but even that's before we were talking about how it's measured flat.
Yeah.
So once you start talking about Earth being measured flat, That's it. Now you're an enemy to them too. Wow.
Whitsit's gone on constantly about how you need to prove we're not spinning. Again, like I covered on today's show, conducive with an argument that supports them. The ballers, that is.
And Dell thinks he's in an elevator going up.
Never mind the clouds. Yeah, Dell came here and got absolutely annihilated with his total horseshit, didn't he? Undoubtedly probably gets more views than I do.
Well, Dell is all about the mechanism. There has to be a mechanism. There has to be a mechanism.
But
Things
what?
just don't move on their own.
Things don't move on their own like air that's constantly moving. Yeah,
Exactly.
they do. Dell's just a clown who ignores air, doesn't he?
No, he's talking about air because he's saying, how is air moving? Like, there has to be some sort of mechanism. And that mechanism is Earth moving upwards.
No, it's entropic dispersion. So he's an entropy denier. So instead of constantly affording his audience the facts of Earth measurement and its flatness, he's talking about air and ignoring entropic dispersion. All right. Yeah, promote him to the top of the list. What's air got to do with Earth being flat? Other than the measurement of altitude when it comes to air and its dispersion, that would be altitude measurement off surface level or sea level. Right? When you describe barometric pressure, you're describing it from sea level. That would be a flat Earth measurement, wouldn't it? So better to argue about the mechanism that air needs to move in the first place, because then you're not talking about how all measurements of Earth, including in this case barometric pressure, are measured from surface level. That's a flat Earth prerequisite. That proves Earth can only be flat. That's how it's being measured. But Dale's not talking about that, is he?
No, Dell's on the upward moving Earth.
The PSI measurement at sea level, 14.7.
Exactly. If you're talking about PSI, you're measuring Earth flat to do so. We talk about how, well, all measurements of Earth, without exception, this is no different. Okay, air pressure. Well, you need a flat Earth to measure that. All right, well, let's figure out the mechanism for it, and we'll talk about Earth rising at... Well, that's nonsense. That's a positive claim you're not proving. What did he say to me when I said, well, look above you, you've got clouds above you. How can Earth be moving up? Never mind the clouds, was the response.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah. Complete shill. Not here to talk about how Earth's measured flat. He's here to bullshit you about an ignorance of how clouds work and ignorance of how Earth gets measured flat with barometric pressure.
Barometric pressure is by square inch, right?
Yeah, measured off surface level.
Yeah, linear inches.
You can't get around the measurements. And that's why you are public enemy number one.
But you can deflect with them.
Where are the guns?
You know, that's exactly right, because when you continue to press tune for the measurements, he gets very flustered, you know? Where are the guns? Or when Brian, when he held that, you know, the predictions in front of Brian at that, whatever that debate was, Brian said, those are flat Earth. You measured Earth flat with those, Tune. You see, he gets very flustered.
Yes, because he knows he's measuring Earth flat and requires it to be so in order for him to have any measurements. So when we start pointing out, well, the first thing you've got in your claim to be predictions are flat Earth elevation angle predictions. So you're going to tell me, based on a surface level and angle measurement to the sun, Earth's a ball? No, based on your surface level measurement, you're measuring surface level. Oh, you haven't got any measurements? Then you haven't got any surface level measurements, so you haven't got any Earth measurements. Oh, we have? Well, then you've got a flat Earth that you're measuring. So what's he going to do? Just get annoyed, pace around in circles and ask where guns are?
The thing that's frustrating is Earth's measurements and how we derive latitude and celestial nav in general is only talked about here. Once you leave this server and go into another one and you mention it, people just lose their minds. Like these are other supposed flat earthers that melt down over it. It's so irritating. It's like the one argument where there is no debate and there's nothing else to talk about once you mention the measurements is forbidden everywhere else.
Yeah, because there are going to be people in place that are there to preclude that from happening. Obviously, if you're going to control a narrative, you need your shields everywhere. And when the most winningest argument gets presented, you need somebody in that realm to say, no, that's not allowed. We're not allowed to say Earth's flat simply because that's how it's measured. That's not a tolerable argument. You need shields to do that.
Yeah, see, you hit it right in the head when you said once you start talking about measurements, they lose their mind. When you can end the argument with it, they don't want this argument, that's not an argument, to be ended. They want to talk. They want to put forth their, scientific acumen. They want to show how intelligent they are. They want to talk about neutrinos. When we have measurements, we have the silver bullet.
And it wasn't so long ago
Yeah,
that
but
silver bullet
Celestial-
was being used by 24/7. Remember when Mr. Anderson went into the server, thinking he got an easy win, and he ended up having to do hours more research on the equatorial plane, because that's where they effectively put in the rock and the hard place. So that was about 6 months ago, and I don't think they're doing that anymore since QE left.
Doing what?
Yeah, celestial or terrestrial navigation will require a flat plane. Rise of a run for terrestrial, yeah, it requires a horizontal plane of reference.
Yep.
Using SalNav as the proof of a flat Earth, rather than arguing within the paradigm, as we saw. What was the gentleman's name who argued about neutrinos? Helio, was it?
Helioskeptic.
Correct.
I mean, yeah, if we're arguing within the paradigm and the moderators of these servers can make sure that all flat earthers argue within the ball paradigm about how it's not a ball and never focus on how the linear flat earth horizontal distances or altitude measurements or sea level measurements are all just flat earth measurements. Pointing out the obvious, they need it to be the case that we use those flat earth measurements without pointing out their flat earth measurements to say Earth's not a ball. That's the game.
Yeah, I was speaking
when it
over
comes to
somebody earlier. You
navigation,
want to go ahead?
Hold on.
When it comes to
Just 1
navigation,
second,
you'll
George.
need
Just 1
you'll
second,
need to
George. Go
apply.
ahead. Just
you'll
1
need-
second, George. George,
Sorry.
just 1 sec. Go ahead, Central.
Oh no, I was going to say I was over talking somebody else earlier. I think it was one of the Americans. If they want to go.
No, it's George. Go ahead, George.
Sorry, George.
When it comes to navigation, you're gonna use the Cartesian system. So it's a flat Earth requirement, regardless what type of navigation you're using.
Yep, exactly. GPS is Cartesian, two-dimensional, flat. All navigation is flat. It's all utilising flat Earth prerequisites, circles of equal altitude and elevation angles. Trig, all of which requires surface level be flat, exactly as measured. There's no, well, we measure it flat because it's a really big ball. No, this is garbage. We're just measuring it flat. It's a requirement for all of the measurements, including but not limited to their further bastardization of the flat measurements to suggest sphericity. They still have to measure it flat. There's no exceptions. None. Right, I'm going to round out, unless there's anything particularly pressing that anybody wants to get into this after show.
No, but thank you for the show, considering everything that you're going through. We really appreciate it.
I am just grateful that people have actually supported me financially, because that was the main reason I did the show. As much as I hate to admit it, it's like, no, needs must. I'd rather just stick out one old show and go to bed, which is what I'll be doing exactly momentarily once I do this round out. So first and foremost, another massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. But moreover, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting me up on PayPal and Patreon, hitting the super chat and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.